Hacking into the prophetic realm is the title for this one. Welcome here. I have come to realize a number of things surrounding the prophetic that concerns the major prophets that exist in the Bible and those ones we have in the contemporary time. These secrets which are followed by these prophets that enhance their accuracy when they prophesy. I have myself been in the prophetic for years. Decades, and by the grace of God, had opportunity to engage these secrets and have come back with unusual results, hacking into the prophetic realm. We've got the prophetic codes, and the concept of prophetic codes is very popular today in the prophetic circles, particularly, and we'll come up with the concept of the prophetic senses and the application of codes for prophecy, like I do teach in the SHILOH School of SEERS. Beyond these, on a general note, for somebody who intends to do the prophetic, there are also other issues that I have decided to put across to you so that you are able to do better in the prophetic by the day as you journey with God. I trust that you will come back from this session being a better you by the help of the Holy Spirit. One thing to always take note of is looking at the lives of the patriarchs of faith, narrowing down to those of them who were prophetic, both patriarchs and matriarchs in the past, and to some of their real relationship or depth of relationship with God that one can think of to be something unusual for a common man, so that allowed them an access to urge others when they prophesy. Your target as a prophet is to receive from God, not just hearing. Whether it's hearing, seeing, perceiving, feeling, tasting, and all of that. The goal you have at the back of your mind is to get it clear from God and accurate enough. Then when you dispense the message that God is giving you to, you are also trying to, as much as possible, by the help of the Holy Spirit, give to God's people what is accurate enough, flawless, in essence, so that your ministration, the prophetic ministration, is released or detailed with accuracy, that's excellence, and power following. What to bear in mind is if you are in sync with God, when you prophesy, your prophecies carry power. So the first thing the prophets of old leaned on was the area of solid fellowship with God. They leaned on this. The target to be able to have God involved with them in fellowship. That's a more reason why you notice that several prophets live a kind of isolated life or solitary life. Hold on, I want to say something here for that. These prophets don't graduate from this research. Every single day, they tend to seek for the face of God. That's because we are humans. We've got body. God have got no body. He is a spirit. The fact that we're connected with the body makes us not to be wholly a spirit in the beginnings. And even when you're growing into the prophetic, like the prophets, let's begin with Jeremiah here. Notice the incidents of his call when God, or he encountered God in Jeremiah chapter 1. And then the man was growing with God. And we saw in Jeremiah chapter 33, God now said, call unto me and I will show you things, that you do not know. I'm saying that in chapter 33 here, he had grown in the prophetic, so he was expected to be there already, so that he had no need of being called up higher again. Yet he needed that. Then when you move away from there, you see a great prophet like Elijah, after accomplishing all of those great feats of his, had to be separated, or had to separate himself to the wilderness. He was into the prophetic enough to have been there in the spirit enough, not to tend to do those things that Jeremiah, who was just in his day one in the ministry, so to say in chapter 1, was doing, like being called out of the people. So the first thing God does is to call you out of the people, and He wants you to try to be drawn to these all the days of your work with Him. Balance is what is needed. But as for, you will never graduate from the need to move away from the people in order to catch God's attention. That's why Elijah into the wilderness, then to the mountain, then to the cave, then God showed. The first thing all major prophets know is to be able to find a way of presenting themselves with an atmosphere that allows for healthy interaction or apt interaction with God. This is what I mean when I talk about hacking into the prophetic realm. There are occasions when you are blunt. Okay, one of the ways you can access this realm when you are blunt is to withdraw this way and do your mathematics with God inside. He's gonna show up, and it is hearing that you're gonna pitch your tent and begin to exhibit or exercise everything you had known in the prophetic in the past. Another thing about the major prophets of old is they had a drive in them that tend to capture or depict exactly what God's concern for that time is. It becomes a drive that they are obsessed or that has engulfed them, and they are swallowed or something lost in it. As a result, they are able to please God in the process. One thing about God is that He doesn't like, let me use this word, He doesn't like divided commitment from a prophet. So if you are for Him, He expects that you're 100% for Him. That's the nature of God when dealing with mankind. So it matters a lot here when you as a prophet have come to the point where you're 100% submitted, and He knows that your will was lost in His will. So when we sing songs like "Let My Will Be Lost in Thine," that's one of the hymn by the people of old. As far as God is concerned, He wants to be sure that you've got no will outside His. That's when He trusts you enough to allow you to access realm where mystery can be accessed. This was a secret of the men like Apostle Paul, John, you see, the likes of Haggai, the likes of Micah. These guys came back with rare prophecies, things that were not ordinarily perceived by those who were deemed spiritual in those days. But there was something about these guys, Haggai, Micah, Zechariah, some of them who were contemporaries in that day. They went beyond where others were in terms of personal, mutual commitment. This drives me to my third idea, and here is it. The idea of holiness connects with sanctification, connects with righteous living. Prophets who want to really prophesy with accuracy all the time must have a sense of holiness, a sense of the need for sanctification, which is said to be a work of grace. Now, when we receive the Holy Spirit and we are under the grace of God, what every prophet should or prophetic person should clamor for, cleave to, cling to, cry for, desire is that you are sanctified. It would mean that you come to a place where sin no longer have power over you. That's what you're pursuing at this point or place in your life as a prophetic person. You are conscious of righteousness. He freed us from bondage to sin, but placed us in the bondage of living right, the righteous life. Paul said, I beat my body so that it becomes in subjection, so I can fight according to rules, so I can win the prize, so that after that I have preached to others, I myself will not be a castaway. Prophets themselves have to make heaven. And God have a way of limiting prophets from doing the best prophetically when they are in sin or when they are still living a kind of offbeat life with reference to righteous living, the standard for a sanctified life. And that, remember, Paul had said that should we continue to sin so that grace will abound. If sin blurs prophecy, so you can be very good today, but you misbehave tomorrow. then you are blurred. I want to make it clear here that as a prophetic person, you're conscious of this. You don't want to floor, and God will not allow you to be good if you're not playing the game according to rules. It's a condition for accuracy. Somebody may be momentarily accurate, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about prophets who are living in the prophetic realm. When I talk about living in the prophetic realm, who are hacked into, or not living there, and are doing this thing conspicuously, standing out as prophets of God to the nations of the earth. You see increasingly with clarity in the realm of the spirit, with your increasing attention to the concern of righteousness, holiness, and sanctified living. Guilt floors prophetic flow, the sense of guilt. Prophecy is entirely tied to conscience, the position of the conscience, no matter what prophetic code you're using. And if your conscience is alive, then it must be able to sense the presence of sin. And if your conscience is dead, prophecy cannot happen. You'll be a soothsayer, a charlatan, a necromancer, and all of that. So if you want to be a prophet and a prophet of God, you see, you're going to be very careful how you relate with God, how your moments are spent. Paul talked about living a life with fear and trembling, not just for members of your church or your followers, no, but for you as a prophet or one who desires to advance in the prophetic. It's a secret that you must live by. So you see people trying to say, I've been in the prophetic, but I'm not seeing, I'm not doing this thing the way I want to do. Check yourself out for this third concern that I just pointed out to you. You see, as I try to conclude, the prophetic is a world. It's real, just as you and I are together before this screen. You're seeing me. That's the way I relate with the prophetic realm. And it makes it very easy for me to interact with that realm because I'm aware it's a real realm. In the beginning of your call as a prophet, you are beginning to access this realm gradually. That's why you can see things once in a while and accurate. It gets to a point under the conditions that I just analyzed and the others that cannot come into this small video that I'm doing now, that you are launched into the prophetic realm. I did a video about dimensions of forensic prophecy. Refer to that video. Go back and watch that video if you haven't watched it, and see my journey, how I walked you from one depth to another depth of forensic prophecy. So, you see, as you begin to come in, it's just like you're approaching a town that you are visiting. The more you're approaching this town, the more you're beginning to recognize the places. And you're beginning to, because you've known this town before, or there are roadmaps or signs rather, that, or icons that signal to you that you are coming close to the town that you're visiting. You're approaching any city in an aircraft. As the aircraft begins to descend lower, you begin to see things or features of that city clearer, unlike when you were kind of thousands or tens of thousands of square meters above sea level. While you're coming down, or when you're coming down, you begin to see these things more. In a prophetic tool, the more you're coming into the city of prophecy, the realm called prophecy or prophetic realm, things become clearer to you, and it takes a customized lifestyle to come to the point where you are fully introduced. It's not just a kind of a magical something that some persons are aware of and other people cannot be aware of. And like it is with some persons, they feel that once God call you, you just introduce their ear. Occasionally, some will introduce their that way, but there are also occasions in which God have to pass you through processes. That's why the Bible is here for us. You follow the words in the Bible, how these things work, and you see yourself increasingly coming to that realm. It corresponds as well with how you're able to prophesy it clearly. For instance, you see the background behind me. You can see the trees. You can see, let me say, the palm-like trees. And because you're seeing them, if somebody's standing there, you can tell us, give us a description of this person. That's how it is when you come into the prophetic realm fully. You hack in there, hacking in, then you have access to this realm. Eventually, you are migrated to this realm. So that night or day, you are good prophetically. These are people that are now into or placed in the prophetic office. Beyond being in the prophetic office, there are depths